lot of things kind of like wrapping up this year, which I kind of understand. We're approaching the end to an era. Needless to say, there are a few things that I've seen months ago that I'm only just getting to now. I really wanted to wrap up Game of Thrones, and now that that's done and over with, we could talk about Cobra Kai Season 2. I liked it. I enjoyed the living hell out of it. Did I enjoy it as much as the first season? No. And there's a specific reason why. Actually, a very fair comparison, I feel, is Rocky 3 versus Rocky 1. Season 2 of Cobra Kai goes a lot bigger than the first season went, which is fine. You know, I mean, like, you kind of want to, you know, raise the stakes a little bit, maybe make it a little bit darker as it goes along. I really like the fact that it sort of almost like mirrored Karate Kid 2 in terms of, like, you know, this time it's for real. There's talk about them bringing back possibly some of the bad guys from Karate Kid Part 3 in Season 3 of Cobra Kai. So maybe this was deliberate and I just picked up on it for once. It goes a lot bigger, and I have to be honest, in the first couple episodes, I wasn't really sure if I was digging it. I wasn't really sure what they were going for, because there were a lot of things that were happening that were very kind of like spectacular and kind of not necessarily believable. Violence amongst kids that's going seemingly unnoticed by adults. But the thing that I appreciated about it was they acknowledge that. They openly acknowledge that. And there's a scene where this kid's being bullied in a mall and he's running away from the gang members. And as he's running by the table, you see the mall security there, like with headphones on, like eating a donut, like just totally oblivious to everything going on around him. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm like, that's them basically saying, like, we acknowledge that this isn't realistic. There's no way in hell that security wouldn't have stopped these people, you know, 5 minutes ago. We're aware of that, and we don't care. We're just going to keep going. It was almost like a way of signaling to the more cynical audience, we know this is cheesy, but this is what we're doing. And I appreciated that. I felt not insulted by that. There's a scene where Daniel LaRusso is supposed to be doing like an example of Miyagi-Do at a carnival, basically. And they had like a sanctioned event, like they had agreed with the carnival, gotten whatever permits or whatever to be there at that time. And then Cobra Kai comes in and like crashes it and has like all this stuff planned out with all these lights, and they're doing their crazy like strike fast, hard, first flips and shit up on stage, and there's like green lights and it looks like a rave and the music is all badass, and it makes Miyagi-Do look totally unappealing to an angsty teenager. Bravo to them. But I'm watching this and I'm just like, man, that was the moment that I was like, they skipped Rocky 2 and they went straight Rocky 3 with this season. And that's really what it is. They went straight Rocky 3. They disregarded the whole Adrian in a coma, you know, getting married, Rocky losing a lot of his fame, and like that character study kind of arc. And they're like, no. We're going to throw them in the ring with Hulk Hogan. And I dug it. I dug how unapologetic it was. Now, that's not to say that it's not still a good show, that there wasn't still good characters and character dynamics and extremely complicated occurrences. I'm kind of rooting for everybody, except for Lawrence's old master. What the hell's his name? I'm not going to put a name at the bottom of the screen because I know his freaking name. Kreese. He's a piece of shit. But other than that, I'm rooting for everybody. You know, it's understandable why certain people got their wires crossed, you know? And even like Hawk, who at this point has turned into just a complete Cobra Kai punk. He's a funny bastard. Cobra Kai is mostly bad, but really what it is a bunch of misguided teenagers who are led by a shitty master, which harkens back to what Mr. Miyagi said in the first Karate Kid, where he basically said, there's no such thing as a bad student, only bad teachers. The ending is a hell of a cliffhanger. It's really intense, super unrealistic, but pretty epic at the same time. I also enjoy how they're kind of keeping with the theme of, like, people who grew up kind of in the 80s, 90s, who would have been a fan of, like, the original Karate Kid trilogy. They have, like, a certain mindset, and they don't really get, like, some of this millennial shit that's going on right now, myself included. So there's one part of the show, I'm just going to give away this little thing. Daniel LaRusso advertises for Miyagi-Do on the internet. And when he does it, you know, he's like kneeling and got the, you know, and he has like traditional Japanese Okinawan music playing in the background. And he gets all this backlash on social media for cultural appropriation. And just seeing his reaction to it is so, like, he's like, cultural appropriation? He's like, that was some of Mr. Miyagi's favorite music. I don't understand. The dude just had like literally the best of intentions and just got trashed out by the new generation. Where Daniel is a little bit more receptive to things like that, Johnny Lawrence is sort of like, what? No, pussy. It knows its audience. It's good for a new generation. And, you know, in all God's honesty, I really think it's going to inspire kids today to kind of go back and watch the Karate Kid movies. Honestly, I think the first one was the only really, like, good one. I feel like those movies are more likely to be appreciated in this new generation because of Cobra Kai. And it also kind of harkens me back to Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, if any of you remember that, from the 90s, that was supposed to be like a sequel show to Kung Fu from the, 60s, where it basically involved his son and all that. So it kind of just reminds me of that. Like, what was the nostalgia in the 90s, and now the 90s is the nostalgia, and I'm old. But at any rate, guys, Cobra Kai Season 2, really pretty good. If you are a fan of the original Karate Kid movies, I would definitely recommend watching it. If you're not a fan of the original Karate Kid movies, watch the Karate Kid movies. And that's all she wrote.